Hello, this is the Module 2 video, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what your assignments are in this video. And if you have any questions about anything, of course, please go ahead and email me through my regular UGA account. If you email me through the ELC email platform, I will respond to it eventually, but it's a lot easier to respond directly from my UGA, our normal UGA email account. So you're liable to get a much quicker response from that one because I can just respond to that one through my phone or laptop, or even when I'm not on campus. So anyway, so for Module 2, we're going to talk about the goals of education, the traditional goals of education in the United States at least. And with a little bit of reference, obviously, to the goals of education in general. They have definitely evolved over time, and it's interesting to look back at what the original goals are, because I think you'll find that there's a little bit of a different focus in the in the original ideas of the emerging republic after the Revolutionary War. So anyway, so chapters 2, Spring, in the Spring book, he is going to discuss, some background on education and how it evolved and so forth. And I think in that chapter 2, he is going to discuss the nature of the learner as well, and conceptions of the nature of the learner. Our society's ideas about it have definitely evolved. If you believe that the learner, from maybe a religious standpoint, is a sinner, is evil, is bad in nature, like they did before the Enlightenment, I suppose, obviously your approach to education is going to be different than if you believe that the learner is, essentially good in nature, or neutral. If the learner is a tabula rasa, a blank slate, as John Locke would say. And then obviously your surroundings and the whole nature nurture debate, I suppose, would come up, but your surroundings would obviously have a much bigger influence on you if you're a blank slate, or as Rousseau believed, your nature is essentially good. Now, you may have learned some of this stuff already in history classes or in, Western Civ classes, those types of things. But it's interesting to see it from, the perspective of the evolution of public education, because obviously, again, the nature of the learner is going to be very important with regard to how you approach education as a society. So they'll, Spring will focus a little bit on that and talk about some other things as well in his chapter. And I have, if you haven't received your book yet, your copy of the Spring book, I do have chapter 2 scanned and in the module itself. But by next week, I do need you to go ahead and have the book, because the readings for chapter 3, are not scanned and in there. So, and you also need to get the other 2 books, because I believe it's in the next module that you begin your readings in the Ravage and the Darling Hammond book. So, okay, so then you're going to watch a couple of, it's maybe 5 or 6 slides, I think, and that's sort of summing up some of what Spring talks about education in the New Republic, post-Enlightenment, that type of thing, how the ideas about people changed, and how ideas about nature change, and of course, after the Enlightenment, we begin to focus a lot more on reason and science and these types of things. So much more is believed that can be known about the world, which of course fuels education during this time frame. I also gave you in the supplemental reading file, I think for that particular PowerPoint, I got that from a reading that I no longer make you guys do. But if you're really interested in this, you want to see where I got the information from for that particular PowerPoint, you're welcome to go look in the supplemental reading file. It is not required, but it's there in case you want to look at it. So then you're going to watch a movie that gives you some background on early education in the United States, and it's narrated by Meryl Streep, and it's part of a much larger series called School. Let's see, it's called School the what is it? The story of the American public education, and it's only the first episode. I think there were 6 or 7 episodes to this, but it's just that we're only going to watch the first episode. And they'll talk about dame schools and just some history, and you'll get to see some of the historians in the movie are some of the people that you're reading. I want to say all 3 are referenced or are asked, for their opinion. So you'll see them as commentators. So you'll definitely see Ravitch and Spring. I want to say you see Darling Hammond as well, but then you also see some other very, famous education experts in that film as well. And I think it's less than an hour, so it shouldn't take you too long to watch that film. And then you're going to read another article, a very brief article by an author, Rothstein and Jacobson, 2 authors, and it's a really nice summary of the traditional goals of education and how they're sort of being fleshed out in an NCLB era, the No Child Left Behind era. The article is a little bit old now. I want to say it's from 2007 or so, but it's still very relevant. It has a lot of really important reform ideas about education in there, and it's very concise. It's in sort of a brief article format. There's a PowerPoint again about another document from 1938 that the EPC, the Educational Policies Commission, put out, and that document was called The Purposes of Education in American Democracy. Yes, in American Democracy. And that one is really interesting. So I've included my PowerPoint for that. There is also a lecture version of the PowerPoint. So there's a PowerPoint where I'm sort of lecturing over it. It's about 20 minutes. And I don't, it's up to you whether you want to view that or not. It's not really mandatory that you view that. But if you want to hear what I have to say over the PowerPoint, you might want to watch that. But the PowerPoint itself, of course, is also in there. So you can go ahead and look at that. And that's a really interesting document when you're talking about how much has changed over time about what we're expecting of education and what we're expecting students to get out of their education, since 1938, definitely. Okay, so then you're going to respond to a discussion prompt. And you are also going to take the first quiz for the class. Now, the quizzes are online. They're graded online. They're multiple choice. They're 10 questions each. And they're all from the readings and the PowerPoints. So please make sure that you reference the previous 2 weeks, because I only give you a quiz every other week, and then I give you a journal assignment in between. So this quiz will cover Modules 1 and Modules 2. Okay, the information from both. So I can, I get them pretty much straight from the PowerPoints and occasionally from the reading, from the texts. So you're welcome to reference anything you need to in order to answer those questions. So, make sure that you do. And I'll talk a little bit more about, I guess, the quizzes later on as we move, forward in the class. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Via email, like I said. So I think that that's it for Module 2. And if there's anything else, I usually will update you with various things that happen during the course with the news, the news tool, I guess, in ELC. And then the only other thing I want to remind you of is that sometimes in the PowerPoints, I embed, little videos and links and so forth that will take you to little clips or snippets. You probably saw that in Module 1. Be sure that you watch, and I think they make you now. ELC is actually making you do this now, where you have to download the PowerPoint, or you have to at least watch it in slideshow mode. So definitely make sure you're watching it in slideshow mode, because if you don't, the links don't actually work. Okay, so that's important. So I think that's it, and I hope that you are coming along okay, and I hope you are not having too many questions about everything. And remember, make sure that you go ahead and get the books. That's important, especially starting for Module 3, because I think you need all 3 of them for Module 3. Okay? All right.